So, welcome and hello. We are here today with Rob Tiffany and Mirko Ross. And these two are IoT, AI, DLT, all the kind of acronyms that you know, veterans. And sort of today we're going to talk about what it is that they're seeing at the moment and what they thought they would see, but they're not seeing. And sort of give us some focus on where we have to be attentive about and where we need to look and invest some energy. So let's start with you, Rob. So good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning from Seattle. Spring has not arrived for some reason.
It has here. It has here in Belgium. And
Good,
this
good.
Thursday we'll be having 23 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
nice. That's
Yeah.
pretty
Pretty
nice.
sunny.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a few days of spring and then maybe a week of summer in Seattle, and then we'll be back to cold again. Oh well. Yeah. It's very telling. It's just like IoT and all that stuff, that you're looking at. We've always been looking ahead with hopeful eyes, haven't we all, for
Yeah.
so many years, this great big $11 trillion explosion and stuff like that. And I find it funny, the three of us have been doing this for so long, but you see new people coming into the space all the time, and they don't know what we have all been through in the past. And they say new, young, hopeful things. And I don't want to sound jaded or anything here, but it's interesting. They're just like, no, it's going to be this most amazing thing. It's the biggest disruption ever. And I'm like, yeah, we've been doing this big disruption thing for quite a while, and it's a slog. It's tough. When you think about the obvious benefits of the Internet of Things, especially in the industrial side, business, things like that. It's been slow going. I think, I'm sure we've all had these discussions of companies we've seen who pulled out of an IoT market in the last year. It was many more than I thought it was. There was a lot of talk about Google getting out. IBM got out. I remember IBM actually with not MindSphere, that's Siemens. They had some kind of sphere on theirs too. Bluemix. That's what
Yeah.
IBM's
Bluemix.
IoT was originally called, Bluemix. I think it was like, hey, we got this cloud and let's just throw some Node-RED up here. It'll be great. And people go crazy. Bosch is not doing their primary thing anymore. There's a lot of players, and there are lots of smaller companies, who've been trying it for a long time. And yeah, it's been tough. And so I think one of the takeaways is it is frustrating to see obvious benefits and great use cases, and still a lot of people struggle to survive in this space. If I think a large way, I think the biggest mega trend that we have experienced in this century is the smartphone revolution. And that was really obvious, and it was giant. It was huge. The iPhone's the most successful product in the history of products. It's made more money than any other single product. And so I know a lot of people were thinking, especially in the tech industry, after the smartphone revolution, what's the next big thing going to be? And the jaded, sad deal is I know a lot of, just working at a lot of the giant tech companies, they're like, hey, we need something new to sell to customers. And so it's like, well, we think it's going to be IoT, but I think as we all seen, there's blockers to adoption. It's much more complex. It's not just like some guy in his garage wrote an app for Android or the iPhone over the weekend and became a millionaire. There's so much complexity, hardware, embedded software, networks, platforms, edge, analytics, blah, 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 blah. And so it's tough. And then what's the next big thing? And this is the thing that, you're focused on, Mirko, is security. Security gives people pause. It gives decision makers like, I'm excited about these use cases, but do I want to take the risk? Because, you're increasing your attack surface when you do IoT. And so, security's made it tough for a lot of people. So yeah, it's we have to address these things if we want to see it through for sure. But then again, it's not enough just to say we got a solution. Um, so much sales and marketing is required. It turns out build it, then they will come doesn't work. It's not like the .com era.
It's rather interesting, Rob, because I mean, as I know, you're a veteran of the IoT industry, for sure. So we are here 3 veterans of the IoT industry, so we know all what's going on. First of all, I think it's still a hidden revolution. So it's a lot is below the surface. I mean, if we think about the automotive industry, I mean, all cars running by the next 10 years, the cars which will be new, they are all IoT devices, because if they're even not an electric vehicle, they will have a SIM card in there because the regulators are requiring that. So, and these are, of course, masses of IoT devices on wheels, but nobody's called it IoT. They all call it smart mobility, whatever. So that's, I think, a huge thing which is going on. And then let's say smart infrastructure is as well a topic. But however, there are several reasons why IoT is not booming like the gardeners of this world have predicted it. And I think one thing is, I mean, IoT is all about economics. So why should I invest, turning my business model, my traditional business model, which is less connected, into an IoT business model? It makes only sense from an economic perspective, isn't it? Like, okay, I can create new services, number one, or I'm getting effects of optimization, let's say higher revenues at the end. And then you see this insane investment proposals. And where are the return of invests? And then there are this less fun cybersecurity guys who tell you, yeah, you can do it, but you have to invest into cybersecurity. And then you are in critical infrastructure. You have to invest. There is no way cheating around. And I think that's really the showstopper, so that there are many cases which have been predicted. They make no sense from an economic perspective.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. Absolutely. And you're right. When you talk about the hidden part that's just beneath the surface, maybe the success that's happening around us, that maybe it's just not the way we thought it would be. The idea, I mean, heck, even, all my friends at Azure IoT, they didn't shut down Azure IoT, but a lot of people are gone now. And so this idea of, hey, we're building this platform and all these developers are going to come build on this platform, maybe that didn't work out the way they thought. But individual smart products that aren't about this whole big public thing you're right. They're happening all over the place. Connected cars, smart buildings, things like that. And so, I think more narrowly focused things, which is fine, which is good. But then, the security thing, people are like, oh no, you ruined my whole party that I was having. What? I have to do security for infrastructure? I just want to put it out there. That's investment. What? You know what? Not to dive too much into what you guys are doing every day, but it's tough. Security is a tough business, because on the one hand, everybody needs it. Everybody's getting hacked to death every day. But getting companies excited about paying money for it is difficult. It feels like an insurance policy, and so many business decision makers, all they can think about is the what of the solution they're building and the money they're going to make or save. And then you say, oh, but I need you to invest in all the security. And they're like, huh? Am I making money on that? Well, no, but it's for that bad rainy day that will come. And a lot of them will go, I'm going to take my chances that that rainy day will not come. And that makes it tough. And until they find out the hard way that they made the wrong decision. And so, getting IoT security, connected intelligence security, exciting or sexy for people is the thing.
Now think about all this life cycle stuff. Even it's like, I wonder how Google Nest managed to bring in products into the market and then tell people, sorry about that, we will shut off. I mean,
right.
It's as well there's as well, I think, frustration out there in the market. Like if you have acquired the super expensive bricks,
Yes.
because there's
Yes.
no life cycle support anymore. And then a lot of vendors haven't included life cycle support in their business model.
Right. Right. No, you're right. They're like, what? Life cycle? We just put it out there.
Exactly.
And it's gonna be fine. Yeah.
Let's shut it off. Yes.
And or you might be an OEM making a device, but you're connecting to some cloud, something, and that cloud provider or data center provider might go out of business or change.
Exactly.
And then that still has the same effect of turning your smart product into a brick.
Exactly. But
which
what
sucks.
but I see several industries. Like I know you're doing a lot of it in agriculture, and to me, agriculture is well below the surface one of the big winner of IoT, because you have these widespread applications on where if you have more data, you can optimize your business or reduce your risk, because agriculture, I've learned, is a high risky business.
It's a very risky business.
It's like gambling.
Absolutely.
Because you have the weather, isn't it?
I know we can't control the weather. It's not like on Star Trek where they have weather control systems in the future. Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of a bummer. I have to say, last couple of summers, I've got to spend time applying that same industrial IoT, because so many of us have been living in factories and building these smart factories and doing Industry 4.0 and all that. And I can't tell you how refreshing it's been to do IoT in agriculture and to work with farmers. It's a different group of people, different mindset. And it's a different world. In a factory, we're connecting industrial machines. We're retrofitting in most cases, because a lot of things are old, of course, trying to talk to PLCs, things like that. And on farms, you're putting IFITs. And I get to learn a lot about farming that I didn't know. You have row crops like wheat and corn. And if you want to do sensors for those, a lot of time those sensors actually have to be on a tractor or maybe a drone. You have specialty crops, which are like apple orchards or vineyards or things that don't change, that you don't mow down. And there you place your devices and sensors there, and moisture sensors, and use connectivity to get that. But however you do it, one of the things I noticed was the farmers, when they saw the data, and they'd say things like, wow, my farm is talking to me. And they were so much more grateful also than other people in other industries, maybe, tech industries, or being in the big cities. You're out on the farm. And so the challenge is letting the data tell them what to do. And this goes back to factories too. The whole deal about, you've got some old guy who knows that when this machine starts vibrating a certain way, it's going to fail in 2 days. And so how do we translate that tribal knowledge into a sensor that can tell us the same thing? And so you have a similar situation in agriculture. What I noticed, and this is not conclusive, but what I've seen is you either have really, really old guys on farms that are in their 70s or 80s years old. you have a generation below that left the farms and went to the cities and never came back. And then I've run into these younger folks who maybe were the grandson or granddaughter, and they're back on the farm. Maybe they want to see what life is like out there, but they were not taught that tribal knowledge by their grandfather. And so they are open to letting data tell them what to do, since they can't say, oh, I've been doing this my whole life, I don't need you. And so that's been kind of refreshing. And so let the data tell you when it's time to irrigate a certain area of the farm. Let the sensors for fertilizer, how much nitrogen, things like that there's this NPK thing. Anyway, it's the same thing as factories. It's, and in the big way, it's all about sustainability. I need to use fewer natural resources to still try to accomplish my goal. Just like a factory, we have inputs going into a factory, we make some kind of widget, we have outputs, we have a supply chain, and farming is the same thing, but it's less predictable because of the weather. It's also much larger scale. It goes on for miles, kilometers, giant areas, which is also harder. I don't know if you've run into this. I've talked about this before, this notion of, it's one thing to say, I'm in the IoT business and I'm going to deploy these devices and sensors all over your smart building or your factory. Fine. But as soon as you say, I need to deploy it across a giant farm of 10,000 acres or something like that. Oh, wow, that's a different situation altogether. Do you have a pickup truck? Are you wearing your cowboy boots? And it's going to take a long time, and you got to know where to find them later.
And how to maintain it, isn't it? It's as well.
Yeah, maintain it. I think I've talked about this before. I feel like we might be missing an entire area of IoT, a group of people who can maintain things. I know people will say, oh, we do that. But I mean, real boots on the ground people to maintain things, because things fail, especially outside. All these things are outside in the weather, and animals probably nibbling on them. it's and so yeah, changing batteries, fixing devices, maintaining over lots of kilometers of space. And so yeah, it's tough. But anyway, I love it. I think, I often talk about by 2050, we're going to have maybe up to 10 billion people on the planet. We have to increase food production by anywhere from 50 to 70%. That's a difficult thing a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people just live their lives and they go to the restaurants and the grocery store and they think everything is fine. And they don't realize there's this small, probably less than a handful of percentages of people on the world who are working night and day against the weather and the elements to feed everybody else.
Yeah, I have two interesting maybe thoughts on that. First of all, I think IoT is really very important towards sustainability. Like if you said, like in agriculture, you can optimize food production. As well, I know a company who is optimizing food waste based on IoT because they're doing this kind of sensoring of cooling data. They have an AI model to predict the shelf time of products and stuff like that, but that they can optimize as well the lifetime, how they are sold, so optimizing the food waste stuff as well. So yeah, super. So maybe good for sustainability. However, it's maybe as well a doom for sustainability, because if we look at electronic waste, IoT products are really, really significant, contributing to our bad electronic waste footprint. I mean, you're decreasing the lifetime of products. Let's take a farming machine. Usually, because I'm as well coming from a farming area, I know how farmers are dealing with their machines. I mean, everybody knows how to repair his tractor.
Yes.
They know it. I mean, and they are used to it because it's a critical asset. I mean, if they need to harvest, they need to do it, and on that day, on that specific window of opportunity. If they are
That's right.
It's a total loss. So having the ability to repair your product is critical for your business. And now what we have seen, and that's a very good case, is that IoT machines, farming machines, fully connected, some vendors have tried to, let's say, lock the ability, the right to repair on their products.
Yes.
I believe for business reasons. They tell us it's for security reasons.
Yeah.
But let's assume it's maybe both. Let's say it's not a disadvantage to bring in more security
Yes.
to create a new business. However, what I haven't got in mind is that they are really, I mean, they are limiting a business critical need for the farmers in that case. And the business critical need is if something is broken in the time I go to harvest, I want to fix it by myself. I don't want to get a message on my iPhone or on my display that I should move to the next contracted repair shop. It's impossible. And then as well, what we do with these products with the lifetime, if you only can support patch and updating, let's say worst case 5 years, best case 10, that means you need to replace critical components every 10 years because you can't patch and update anymore.
That's such a good point. I think so much of this, I don't want to blame all the SaaS people out there, but this whole idea of trying to turn everything into a service and a subscription, which has, it's had success in software, and then people started trying to do it with hardware because they want to create a consistent stream of revenue coming in. And so all these people who are making tractors, and also I think that the technology revolution, and the people who are building tractors and farm equipment, it's not like they just came up with those ideas themselves. They got it from the major car manufacturers, the people who are making the automobiles, and we know who all they are, where those things are hard for you to work on yourself anymore. It's like they've turned the shop at the car dealership into a profit center, and everything is computerized, and there's so many chips in the cars, and so it's hard for people to work on a modern day automobile, and it's hard to work on a tractor, and that flies in the face of the farmer who used to be able to fix it. But the same person driving an automobile will say, well, yeah, but I used to be able to, I could easily fix my Volkswagen Beetle because it was so simple, which is why, kids out there, make sure you have at least one car from the 20th century, just in case, that's fully mechanical that you can still fix and will still survive, like an electromagnetic pulse or something like that, just in case. Or when the machines take over, you don't want it to be connected or too technical or too computerized.
I think Mad Max cars.
I remember when I was growing up in our neighborhood, there would be always these cars on beer crates, guys sitting next to them with a beer, and
Yep.
sort of it was like it was all these meetings that were happening around that moment of. And the guy showing off, knowing how to get the tools and all of that sort of.
Yeah.
And that sort of, I'm not sure we're going to get that back, Rob, but at least I remember it. It's in my memory, so I remember
it's in your memory. Yeah. No, you're right. There's a lot of car guys, people who like to work on cars. It's fun. Yeah. Just like we work on software, or you do a puzzle or something. It's fun for you. It's interesting. It's good for your mind. I want to go rebuild an engine or a transmission on a vehicle, whatever. So yeah. And so everything's gotten so technical. Obviously, we've all talked about it at length during COVID, and we had the supply chain issues, and all of a sudden we couldn't get chips. And then people all over the world found out the truth that there might be hundreds of chips in their car, and they didn't realize it. Yeah. They're like, what? Why are there so many computers in my car? Why do I need a chip to have heated seats? And so that's been a wake-up call. So yeah, it's interesting. But you know what? So I really think the sweet spot for IoT is sustainability. If it turns out, I know there's a million great use cases that IoT is great for, but I think sustainability might be the most important one. Because what is IoT? I know we try to think that we're all so smart and we overthink it. It's just measuring something. We're just measuring something in the environment, a machine, the atmosphere, the whatever. And we're just remotely measuring it and sending back that data in real time. And either you're going to take an action or that action's automated. And so it's great for sustainability. Monitoring, I spent a lot of time last couple of years spending time, believe it or not, working with folks in the oil and gas industry to try to help them get to net zero, which might sound like, how is that possible, Rob? And yet, but monitoring emissions, CO2, methane, things that cause, greenhouse gases, noxious gases. It always seems simple to me. There's so much of the world that is still based on somebody driving to some location and reading a gauge or taking some kind of reading and writing it on a clipboard and driving back to wherever to report on that. And that's still more pervasive than you think. I know a lot of times you look at the calendar and you say, wait, it's the 21st century. How is this still happening? But it is everywhere. And so when I think of monitoring emissions and people have to go to some location 4 times a year to monitor methane or something like that, and I'm like, well, what happens if as they're driving away, a leak starts happening, but they're not coming back for another 3 months to check on it? Continuous monitoring is so easy now. And so I feel like we might need a world of continuous monitoring, but at the same time, Mirko, you made a good point. In order to do that, we're putting a lot of tech and a lot of potential waste, electronic gear all over the planet to do this on behalf of people, So yeah, it's a catch-22.
Think about all these batteries. I don't know. Are there any studies out there how many batteries have been deployed by IoT devices?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
All those batteries, your AirTags. How many AirTags have been deployed by Apple? We have to Google it, but they are all
right.
small batteries in there. So
I just like the way you said that. How many AirTags from Apple? We'll have to Google it.
But however, there are IoT devices as well.
You're right.
And I think it's this kind of below the surface stuff. We are using it because it's.
Yeah.
Fun fact: I've lost one of my AirTags in the train, and I was following by months the train crossing Germany, and it was always, oh, there's my AirTag is now in Munich. Very nice.
Excellent. You're doing asset tracking for the train.
And now I know as well where the Deutsche Bahn is just where is the deposit for AirTags.
Absolutely.
However, there are as well this kind of very useful. I mean, there is a use case for it, which is very practical, and they are IoT devices, and of course we are just using them by daily. So I think well, it's more on the surface, but it's there, and it's as well there in the kind of amount we were thinking of, but it's not so obvious, let's say it in that way, which is good because at the end it's technology. It should not be obvious, isn't it? Like
that's true.
You don't want to be attached with IoT devices on your whole body, antennas
absolutely
coming out of ear or whatever. I mean, even your AirPods are IoT devices.
That's true. You're right. And so maybe like we talked about just in technology in general, in the early stages of any new technology revolution, there's lots of talk about it, lots of different players, there's a lot of excitement, and then there's consolidation over time. And then at some point, the technology disappears. It didn't go away. It's just now part of the fabric of society. It's everywhere, and it means it's adopted. And so while many of us are frightened by the, oh no, we're crashing into the trough of disillusionment for IoT, what it really means is consolidation's been happening, and narrow focus use cases that are successful are, and you kind of climb out of that, and then it disappears and it becomes everyday technology, and we just don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really happening here.
Yeah, exactly. And now people are freaking out because of AI. I mean, same story, just
Yeah.
repeating. It will calm
Yeah.
down as well. It will calm down, and then we'll see, unfortunately, maybe some real big impacts. And then merging AI with IoT is as well super powerful.
Yeah.
And at the end,
I hope it calms down. No,
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
you're in the security business, and security with this AI, a GPT-4 is so powerful now, and then the whole world's been exposed to Chat GPT and the Google thing, Bard, and it's amazing how powerful it is. And then they saw Dolly too, and they've done stuff with Mid-Journey. And from a security standpoint, it's terrifying.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden the videos are fake, the images are fake, audio, the voice calling you to say, oh, help, it's your mother, I've been kidnapped, I need you to wire transfer $10 million to this account, or they're, and it sounds exactly like your mother. And the words you read look real, and the images look exactly real. This is what's terrifying about this technology. And so it's like a whole new threat vector,
And you know what? I believe we see as well the quickest reaction of regulators worldwide, because we have seen a very quick tech progressing. Like, I mean, it was already there, to be honest. Everybody in the AI industry knew what is the capability of the models and stuff like that. It was now for the public with ChatGPT, because to be honest, Mid-Journey and Stable Diffusion and what had been before was as well super impressive. But now, of course, it's this kind of easy, understandable use case for everybody. Everybody can try it out, even if you're the stupidest politician in the world.
Right.
You can create your speeches now with ChatGPT, and you immediately get the idea of it and the use. So what we see as well, not only, let's say, the quickest and high velocity deployment of a technology like ChatGPT, we see as well on the regulator space the same. They will, I believe, they will react very quick, because they understood immediately that this is threatening themselves. Let's say themselves, it means like the way how you want to operate a democracy or a state or a nation or whatever, because they immediately understand that if it's not getting regulated, it will get terrible wrong. And this is not only about fixing it with duct tape, like the American put some fix it. I mean, that's now now we have seen. I mean, Europe was stepping forward with the AI Act, but to be honest, Europe is always, it's a forerunner on that things. If you don't manage to scale it, we are regulating it. That's the European perspective, but it's super slow. There's a big, I mean, they need to discuss it. And I believe that the US will take the lead here, because obviously there is a sense of this is getting into the wrong direction. As well, there are the elections coming up very quick. So, the power of influencing people by that, not only selecting the right target groups. I mean, you can imagine, for targeting marketing on election, you already use AI to select the people. Now you can call them with the best preferred voice emulation.
Yes, you're so right. I don't know if you've seen it. The president
is calling you directly. It's like, oh, Mr. President,
wow.
it would be great if you can.
I would encourage you and everyone listening. All right. So I know this guy, his name is Nicholas Thompson, and he's the editor-in-chief at The Atlantic magazine, but he used to be the head of Wired magazine, if you remember that. And so I've been on panel discussions with him. And so the cool thing he does, go on LinkedIn, like literally today, every week he does a video. You know, he lives in New York, and he does, here's the coolest thing in tech this week. Well, what he just did yesterday was he was talking about what we're talking about now and how we can fake videos and everything. And so as he's talking, he goes, yeah, I mean, all of a sudden you could look like Tom Cruise or whatever. And his face turns into Tom Cruise while he's doing his interview. And then it turns into Paul Rudd, and then turns into some other actors' faces and stuff like that. And then a baby and stuff, and he never stops. And it's like, oh my God, the average person who hasn't seen this kind of stuff will be blown away. And he goes, what I just did used to be Hollywood type special effects. He goes, I did this myself with some tools that I could download, and it took a little time, but I made this whole video and I became all these different movie stars, and I looked just like them while I was talking to you. And he goes, that's powerful. And to your point, Mirko, I mean, all of a sudden, what if the president is sending you a personal video or audio or something like that?
So I think
addressing you, it's like,
yeah,
Rob,
yeah.
it would be a pleasure. I mean,
But I think so. Let's assume, because that's where we're going, that we're going to be living or are already living in a world in which we can no longer decide what's real. Let's define real as having a specific time and place, and then with a human actor. And what's not real, and that's AI, that's instantaneous. So in AI, there's no place or time, everything gets produced instantaneously. That's kind of the moment. But that's where we are. And I think what's going to make the difference is context. Sort of this thing that I think also, Mirko, you've been working on and you've been sort of thinking about for a long time now. And so if we take it as a fact that we're no longer going to be able to produce, to have this kind of difference, that's a fact. Also because synthetic data is on the rise, and if synthetic data is being fed into the models, then there's a whole new ball game sort of coming up there. But I think we're quite well placed then to say that we have to sort of go from now with the idea that what's real is real to whom and why. So it's about the why and the whom, and we're pretty good at the why and the whom. Sort of that's what we've been doing. Also gathering all this context from all of this data, sort of knowing that we're not living in a unified or one point reality, but that there are many. So I think this is something that we have to start working on. Maybe sort of
right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Do I have to be in person with you to truly believe that what we're saying and who you are is real? I mean,
I think also personal contacts and personal relationships are going to be very, very, very much more decisive in the coming decades or years. So the fact that we're going to get these kind of circles of trust is something that we need to take as a given. This is happening as we speak, and so I think it's up to us how to form or to build concepts that can form basis for new realities, because we'll have a lot of realities. And so I think this context is going to be key.
But adding one more buzzword to our discussion, you remember about the metaverse?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the opposite direction. It means like building another virtual digital layer and then trying to fix with duct tape the question of trust.
Absolutely.
Because the metaverse is getting more difficult with AI. That's if I would have been Facebook, I would be super alerted, because it means if everybody, I mean, their selling story was, oh, we make life easier because you can do real experience of real trust in a virtual world. Now
Yeah.
it means you can trust nobody nowhere in the virtual world, because
Right.
it could be all, not only avatar, it could be completely synthetic, simulated, and how to bring in trust in there. And maybe IoT is one question to this, because we were all very, very aware of that IoT is collecting data, a lot of data about us. But however, maybe this is the context we need in future to authenticate ourselves as the real, because there are some kind of aspects and context, like it sounds like silly. Think about, you have a pacemaker with a GPS module in there.
Yeah.
I don't want to have that, but however, maybe this will happen. I mean, so,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
So then this kind of medical device, or your implant, your hip implant,
Yeah.
is maybe the only factor proving that you're real on a certain location at the moment. And then we met in metaverse, and you're telling me you're there, and I can say, well, it's true, your hip implant just approved it.
And yet at the same time, I'm already imagining every dystopian movie I've ever seen where the charismatic, nice person gets on and goes, listen, we're doing this for your own good. We need to put this chip in the back of your neck so that we really know it's you. And then, you know, we were so wrong. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a strange future.
But you know what I mean? It's like we in the future, we will need several trusted data points to prove our own trust and integrity. And this sounds a little bit strange. And the IoT is hopefully one of these data points, because it's not so easy to emulate them. Let's say it in that way.
Yes. Just like you might use for security on an IoT device. There's a bunch of data points, fingerprint of the device to let you know this truly is the device and sensor sending the data. It's not fake. Yeah, I can see that. What's a million different data points about you that's so unique that can't be replicated, you know?
Exactly.
Something, yeah.
The security will be in the fact that there are millions of data points, which are, from an economic perspective, too hard for an attacker to emulate. Let's say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What were people talking about? I know you went to the RSA conference. What was the latest?
I mean, okay, latest buzzwords in the cyber. Of course, everybody was talking about AI in Silicon Valley. Everybody was talking about that. It's
okay.
Nobody was talking about Bitcoin anymore. So they've learned they all went from the Silicon Valley to Florida now. So they have all moved. So crypto wasn't. Nobody was talking about crypto, so everybody was talking about AI. And well, I mean, we will naturally see IoT and AI merging, because even if you take a vehicle, if we take a software-defined vehicle, autonomous driving is only possible with AI, because you need the sensor data. No, with AI, because you need this autonomous system doing decisions. And with IoT, because you need the sensor data. So both technologies need to merge. Then we have a clear chance to build this kind of autonomous driving. Where I'm a fan of, because I think driving with a driving license is a burden. But however,
wow, you sound like a millennial or a Gen Z.
No, it's.
I don't want to drive. I don't want to have to learn how to do a stick shift.
I have a critical experience with speed limits. So.
yeah, I know that one.
So, however, when both technologies are merging, you have the possibilities to create really this new applications like autonomous driving. Otherwise, there is no possibility to do that. And then, I'm just that's thinking ahead, like about the next big thing will be quantum computing, I believe so. If they will manage it to have it in a stable, the fridge being stable in a stable conditions. But then, I mean, it's like we have been grown up with Moore's law, and I was at a high performance computing center here in Germany, and they were collecting all their supercomputers of the past 40 years they have acquired. So, and I was standing in front of this Gray 2 computer. I mean, yeah, incredible. Being there,
that's cool.
This was once the computer with the highest processing power in the world. It's a legendary computer. Looks like a big fridge.
Yeah, you're right.
And then they told me, yeah, but it costs a load of millions. I don't know how many millions. Let's say 50 millions or whatever. And then I said, well, and it has the processing power of an Apple Watch 8.
Oops.
And that was Moore's law. I mean,
yeah.
looking back 30 years, looking back on 30 years of Moore's law. But quantum computing is completely different. I mean, this is not to go to a base of 2. It's going to from base 4, 5, 6, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a completely other speed of processing power. Then putting this processing power together with AI, putting this together with IoT as well, like the way of how IoT devices are getting miniaturized. I mean, that's as well amazing. Have a look, like what's so. I think the next decades are getting very, very interesting.
I think so. It sounds very interesting, putting all that together.
And IoT has one place, of course. It has an essential place. Yeah.
Right. We got to sense the world around us. That's an input. Yeah, that's a good point. It's going to be very interesting times, and we're going to need a lot of security and new ways of doing security that we've never done before, probably.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Woof.
Yes, I think you said strange future. I think we can say it's going to be strange futures, because futures is going to be plural. And
because we're going to be in the multiverse.
Yes. We're going to be yes. But that's where we're going to be. So it's real now. So we can't. So what I think the person who was called the father of AI has yesterday left Google or something, because he and all of a sudden, after 60 years of thinking, he starts to see a problem, or a little problem that and I find that always very interesting and intriguing, that you can do something for 60 years and not see particular consequences, and then at some point, so I think because in a way, yes, it's all completely critical. In another way, when we moved from, let's say, oral history to books, or just think about a time when we were in a situation in the world where there was only oral history and there was no written. People had billions of futures, billions of realities, all of these things, and still there seemed to be some way of functioning. When we went to books, the books got published. There were no schools, there were no critics, there were no newspapers, there was no knowing what is fact and fiction. People figured it out. So in a way, yes, it's all critical and amazing. But in another way, we've been there. As humanity, we've been in these situations where we also have some common sense, in which we know what is. How to act and how not to act. So, I want to thank you both for great conversations, and I think we should.
This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
Definitely fun.
Great.
Just one comment. When I think about what you're saying there, though, the worry a lot of people have is, over the different generations and centuries, we've had incremental change, and some people keep up with incremental change and some people fall behind. today we are now having exponential change, which will be harder for people to keep up with. Not everybody, I think that's what people are afraid of when it becomes exponential. When you combine IoT and AI and quantum, wow, it's not just a little change or something I need to adjust to or go learn something new. It's a radical new future for sure.
And let me add as well one idea. I think regarding this Google stuff and AI researchers are just leaving, running away is not an option. I think running away is not an option. The only way how you can shape things are if you work with them. And however, you can run away, of course, but I mean, it will help us nowhere. That's
You're right. The smartest people in AI who are afraid of a potential dystopian outcome, they should be staying and using their talents to ensure that doesn't happen and to put those guardrails on the AI. Because you're right, a lot of people will be, oh, I'm going to run away. I'm going to go live in a bunker in the desert and hide. But you're right. We need them to help. We need them to be afraid, and then we need them to help and fix it if they see a problem.
No, I fully agree, and you both have been doing that yourselves over the last decades in not running away when you saw and when you see critical issues, that also with the balance between having sustainability measured and then what's the measurement of this sustainability going to do to the measuring itself, sort of this but you're not running away from it, Rob. You're going to the ground and you're going to see if you can make a difference there. So same as Mirko is doing. So I think you both
Mirko and I are just trying to keep up with you. You're the true legend here.
Well, somehow I don't buy that.
No, that's...
I don't buy that. I think they're sitting in front of me. But no, thanks again. It was a wonderful conversation. And we have to do this more often. So
absolutely. It's great hanging out with you guys. This is a lot of fun.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Thanks for getting up so early. Thank you, Mirko. And so we'll talk again soon.
Sounds great.
Thank you.